my tip here, big one I want to get across because it's the way I've been thinking about things with AI right now, is to go deep, not wide. There's AI, there's this, technology, ChatGPT, most people are familiar with. People have taken that and they've expanded it out this way. And they said, okay, now I'm going to have a tool that can, write a song for me, or I'm going to have a tool that can, make dinner reservations for me, right? I just don't know yet. I don't know about those tools, and there's thousands of them every single day. There's a new AI tool in itself. All these extra tools that are coming out every single day are bad. It's just that I don't know if it's the right bet to make at this time. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mortgage Tech Talks. Today, I'm going to do another solo episode. We're entering the summer season, or actually probably right into it, and now it feels like it's halfway over. But that aside, summer season is here. What is the best way to use your time as a mortgage broker this summer? I talked about 3 really important things, some things that are going to sound familiar and you've heard a million times. I'm going to say it again because it's so important, but some new things. And of course, I can't go an episode talking about AI, but what you should be doing about AI this summer. It's a bit of a new take, and I think it'll actually help a lot of people. Hopefully you're in a point right now where you can dedicate a little bit more time to AI, and this is just going to hit just right for you in that case. So a lot of very practical, specific tips in this episode, but I hope it's worthwhile. We'll see you on the other side. All right, so here we go. It's summertime officially, and for a lot of folks, it's a new season in a lot of different ways. Maybe your kids are out of school, get a chance to do some stuff. Maybe you just live in a, setting, let's say an environment, a city that kind of comes alive in the summertime. Maybe things are just slowing down for you a little bit on the business side of things, and you get a chance to do some new things. So this episode is geared towards that. I'm going to talk about some things we can do with this season. What is the right thing to be doing and to be focused on? So let's get into it here. So the first thing I'm going to say is the obvious thing, but promise you there's going to be some original ideas here. But the obvious thing is, take some time off, whether it be, with your kids, just yourself, or long weekend, or a couple of weeks, whatever it ends up being, take some time off. And here's kind of the key with it all. Really what I mean by that, the first part is obvious. I mean, take time off and actually take it off, right? I mean, I don't know, raise your hand if you're listening to this, and the case is, you take time off, you intend to, be off maybe on a beach somewhere or doing something, and you have your laptop with you. I was just talking to a broker last week, actually, and she was off driving to her vacation and said she's got a pile of files waiting for her. She had to tell her daughter that, hey, wasn't able to, maybe be as engaged as she would have liked to have been. And, I think that that's not great. Maybe, maybe some people say, hey, I like the work. I like that. And I just say to that, okay, well, if you like the work, then work, right? But vacation, focus on that time and the intention that it has, whether it is time with family or just a chance for you to recharge. So I always believe in a time and a place for everything. And if you're choosing the time and the place of a vacation, actually stick to it. So take some time off, actually take it off. And so, really for a lot of folks out there, they say, okay, well, yeah, I'd love to take some time off, but when the phone rings, I also want to be there for my client. And I don't want to tell you not to do that. Kind of my big thing is, I think as long as, you're branding yourself as Tom Hall, mortgage brokering 123, whatever it might be, you're putting yourself at the center of the brand versus, a logo or something, like Super Mortgages. I'm just using that as an example. If your brokerage is named Super Mortgages, I don't mean to copy it. But the point I'm making is that for a lot of brokers out there, they are the center of the brand. And so what I say is you can still take that first phone call. I think that's still okay to be able to answer it, talk about it, put your best foot forward, really describe the service that you can uniquely provide. That's my recommendation. Some people don't even do that, but I'd say that's, something I think is very acceptable on a vacation. People understand that, but also explain to people, hey, thanks for the phone call. I only have about 10 minutes here. I actually am on vacation with my family, but I just wanted to have this quick conversation with you, understand what's going on, and then hand it off. Right. And so then that handoff part is the big question part. What does that even mean? And that is kind of the key in all this. And that's what I really wanted to get to, which is, okay, you've had that first phone call. Now you want to kind of get back to things. And it's not enough just to kind of hand it off. It's handing it off with confidence. Because again, between probably anybody listening to this podcast, they know if I hand it off and I don't really know what's going to go on, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to be thinking about it at dinner, and then I'm going to get back to the hotel or wherever I'm staying, and I'm just going to take over. So yes, it's handing it off. You could do that tomorrow, right? You can hand it off to someone wherever, some assistant somewhere. But if you don't have confidence in that handoff, then you're probably just going to do it anyway. So it's a confident handoff. And then, so how do you achieve a confident handoff? I don't think it happens overnight, actually. There's a couple steps to that. But the first step is always just defining the process. So obviously, we're CRM guys, we're tech guys, but I don't think that's actually where you start. We'll get to the tech in just a second, but it starts with actually building out a process, right? So I don't care where you do a piece of paper. I use piece of paper sometimes. Maybe it's on a Google Sheet, whatever it is, and just lay out step by step by step by step everything that ever happens from that first phone call that I guess, you're probably taking all the way to them closing and, probably beyond that. And every single step along the way, what is happening, what's going on, right? And just lay that out. And it's going to be unique to you, right? There's obviously going to be a lot of overlap with other people, colleagues that you have, but you have your own flavor, your own sauce, and you want to layer it on. I mean, that's what differentiates you in the marketplace. So make that unique journey, put it on a document, get it there. It's constantly going to be refined. It's not set in stone, but at least getting that starting point, right? Good. Don't let perfection be the enemy of, I guess, implementation, actually getting it done. Because if you want it to be perfect, you're never going to get it perfect, because you do something today, it's going to be imperfect tomorrow because your process is going to change that much. But just get something down, get something that's good enough that you're going to change, but at least something that you can hold and point to and say, that's my process. Because once you have that, then you can go to the next step, which is either basically who's going to be responsible for it, right? And it's always going to be either a person or a piece of technology. And so that's where the tech comes in. And so that's really the order of operations, I say, is to say, okay, understand that you need, maybe that's the first thing that comes out of the summer is, hey, I need a process. Build that process independently of any type of tool that will help you execute on that process. And then once you have that well defined, then you focus on the execution. And yeah, it's usually people or tech. So for us, we see a lot of people save tons of time for not that much money by just implementing some technology. So automating certain steps, saying, hey, that one part of my process, I really like to say, hey, once I get an approval to notify the realtor. That's something that could be automated. So that's the tech piece of it, right? And then other parts of it, let's say, I don't know, you go along, you say, hey, after the intro call, I like to get these documents. I like to do a little bit of review of those documents. But the actual upfront doc collection, maybe that's an assistant, right? Maybe that's someone who's helping me out, and that's going to be associated with them. So you have the process, you have each step, and then you can kind of from that view say, okay, ideally, who would be doing each of these steps? Which ones do I have to do still? Because there'll still be some, but which ones can I outsource to either people or technology, and then find the right tool for that. So we've talked about this before, how to actually take vacation as a mortgage broker, but I wanted to recap that and say, first and foremost, even though this is a tech podcast and I'm coming from that, don't start with the tech. This particular, I guess, assignment for the summer does not start with tech. Tech is the, I guess, end state, but it doesn't start there. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to get across really with this segment, is to say, don't switch the two. Start with the process, get in a piece of paper, get in a Google Doc, understand that's constantly going to be evolving, get it there, and then turn and say, okay, which tools, people, technology are going to actually help me execute. Okay, so that's that. I wanted to get that one out of the way because it is an important one. I think it's a message I continue to want to say to any mortgage broker listening. But the next one here, I say, just get back to some fundamentals, and a good place to start. So that's kind of the high level thing I'm saying here. But a good place to start is to say, what's that thing you've been putting off, right? And it could be back from 2021. It could be back from just earlier this year, a bit of a busier spring market. I don't know what it is, but there's probably something lingering, right? Something that you've said more than once. My kind of rule is that if I've said it 10 times, I almost for sure need to do it. Maybe there's something you've said 10 times. Maybe it's 3 times. I don't know. But I think if you dig deep, or probably not that deep at all, there's something you're going to say, yeah, I know I need to do this. I've said it a million times, but it's just like that annoying task, right? It's that thing that, for whatever reason, you always find a distraction just when you're about to do it. It's probably something not that fun, probably something that's not really going to move the needle for your business today, but it's something you need to do for the long term, right? And yeah, I think the summer's a good time to do it. Things aren't too busy. And I think it's one of those things where always, when you do these types of things that you've been putting off, you've been procrastinating, there's no real urgent need to do it, but you need to. As soon as you do it, obviously you're so grateful. It's a weight you had on your shoulders that you didn't know. 2, though, you realize that it wasn't as bad as you thought, right? It's something that, okay, I don't know why I put that off for so long. What else is on that list, right? And you can get a little bit of momentum and crush it. So, some simple things off the top of my head. I've talked about it on this podcast, but for sure, anyone out there listening who hasn't done this yet, you need to do this. So this is my key one right now, which is your website and your email need to be owned by you. The domain needs to be owned by you. So, tomhallbrokerage.com, that should be, if that's your website, you need to own that domain, Tom Hall Brokerage. If you are using your offices or your network's URL for your website and it's just /Tom, network.com/Tom, that's a huge red flag because you don't own it. And that's going to be such high currency, of course, but even more so as we go into more and more of a digital age, you need to own that. So instead of network.com/Tom, get tomhallbrokerage.com. It's so important. And then the same, of course, goes with your email. Instead of tom@network.ca, it's tom@tomsbrokerage.com. So that's a huge one. Please do it if you haven't done it yet. I'm telling anyone who's listening, you got to do it because it's one of those things where you're like, hey, it's not a huge deal until it becomes a huge deal. And we're seeing it. I talked about it a couple, I think, months ago now, where Ron talked about certain brokerages who are going into receivership and the agents are kind of caught in between. You don't want to be that agent who has their website tied to a brokerage that's now going through receivership. It's just not a place you want to be in. So that's an easy one. Another common one, okay, let's just get all your client list cleaned up, birthdays, maturities. You can use an Excel sheet. I don't care. Obviously, I would recommend a CRM, but if that seems too heavy, just use an Excel sheet. And then number 3, I hear a lot of people talk about is just, getting your files organized for compliance reasons, but also just follow-up reasons. You're going to do someone's refinance or their renewal in 5 years. Make it super easy to find that file again. You want to make yourself seem organized. It's good for you, but it also makes you come across as a professional to say, hey, yep, Tom, doing your renewal. No problem. Here, I got your file. Is this still your address? You still working here? Has anything changed? Right. So getting that super dialed in, it's going to make you more efficient along the way and make you, seem more professional to your clients. And then the other kind of fundamental, I would say, is start a habit. And I think that some people say, hey, I'd like AI to be my new habit. I would say don't do that, actually. So I think that habits should be, I guess, self-contained, maybe put it that way, something that you could do. And then within itself, kind of get that fulfillment, complete that loop. So I'll give some examples of what I mean by that. But I don't like AI being a habit because you're forcing it. And I think actually AI should be linked to an outcome, right? So I want to do something, so I'm going to use AI to it. It's not, again, AI is kind of like a tool. So it can't kind of, what's a tool without a task, right? These habits that I'm suggesting you join should be kind of self-contained, where it's a task and a tool all in one. So let's put AI aside for a second. That's going to be my third point. Big spoiler, big surprise there that I'm going to be talking a little bit about AI. But for this one, point number 2, talking about getting back to fundamentals, let's build some habits. And I really recommend to anybody out there, just, again, doesn't have to be complicated. It could be a good sleep routine, right? Hey, go to bed at 10 p.m. every single night and wake up at 6 a.m. and do that every day, right? And just see how that looks. Maybe it's a new exercise routine. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're going to go run a mile, run a couple miles. I don't care. Do something like that. The one I really like is a morning routine. What's your morning routine? Get up. Maybe it's a little bit of a meditation. Maybe it's a bit of journaling. I've seen like 5 posts recently about journaling in the morning. So maybe that's picking up some steam. I don't know. I do it myself. I do a gratitude journal. I say 2 things I'm grateful for every single day. Really kind of centers me, gets me right. So yeah, just maybe pick up a new habit. Again, probably one that you've talked about for a while that you'd love to do. Oh, I'm so jealous of the people who work out a couple times a week. Just build a habit. Do it for 30 days. See how it goes. And at the very least, you're going to get smarter about how you personally respond to different habits and building those habits. So that's number 2, get back to fundamentals. And finally, number 3, I have to talk about AI, of course, but my tip here, and it relates to things we've talked about in the past, but the really big one I want to get across, because it's the way I've been thinking about things with AI right now, is to go deep, not wide. Okay, what do I mean by that? Deep, not wide. Well, what I mean by that is, let's start with the wide thing. So there's AI, there's this, technology, ChatGPT, most people are familiar with. People have taken that and they've expanded it out this way. And they said, okay, now I'm going to have a tool that can, I don't know, write a song for me, or I'm going to have a tool that can, I don't know, make dinner reservations for me, right? I just don't know yet. I don't know about those tools, and there's thousands of them every single day. There's a new AI tool. I don't know what's going to make it. Probably some will. I'm not saying that in itself is a bad thing. I just don't know We're in such a noisy, kind of frothy place right now with all these tools. I don't know what the actual use case is going to be in 2, 3 years. What's going to be, is it worthwhile to invest and learn how to use this tool that does dinner reservations for you? Or is some new piece of technology going to come along that makes it irrelevant? One thing I saw recently, which I thought was an interesting post, is that ChatGPT is now the biggest startup killer out there. Because a lot of people are doing that. They're saying, hey, I'm going to do a startup that helps you make reservations. And then the next version of ChatGPT does that for you. And boom, that tool's useless now. Right. So again, yeah, I'm not saying that in itself, all these extra tools that are coming out every single day are bad. It's just that I don't know if it's the right bet to make at this time. So instead of going wide and looking at all these different tools, which one should I use? Which one's right for my business? I say go deep, understand, and I'll use ChatGPT again, understand how these things fundamentally work. Because I'll tell you why more than anything. One is it's going to allow you to be better with these tools, right? It's going to allow you to just interact with them better, understand how they do that. And number two, it's really going to help answer. I know there's a lot of anxiety out there as it relates to, hey, it's going to take my job. The better you can understand these things, the better you can answer that question, right? For a lot of people, the anxiety about AI is, yeah, could it take my job? Sure. But also that it's just a black box. It's like, I don't know what this thing does. Is it going to be doing my homework tomorrow? Or is it never? Or what can this thing do? And the deeper and deeper you go, the better off you're going to, be for that. So some real specific things that you can do. Number one, I just say, hey, instead of Google, you have a question, instead of using Google, you just use one of these tools, ChatGPT, Perplexity. Those are kind of the best ones for, I guess, search-based things. Just do that, right? And your homepage, instead of it being google.com, just have Chat or Perplexity as that default that you have. But don't use it like Google. So when you want to Google something, hey, today I wanted to, learn where a walk-in clinic was because I don't know, I need to pick up some antibiotics. And I went to ChatGPT instead of Googling. I used to Google that. Now I went to ChatGPT and asked, hey, where can I do it? And it does a pretty good job. But here's the other thing I say, use it when you would use Google, but don't use it like Google. So what do I mean by that? So in my example, I said, hey, where are some walk-in clinics around me? Hit enter, I get a response. That's not it. That's not where the story ends, right? Push on them, talk to them like they're human. Pretend that instead of Googling it, you asked your kid to Google it or your friend or whatever. And so, your friend comes back with a list of things and you're like, are you sure? Like, is this right? But say that to ChatGPT. Say, hey, are you sure? Is this right? I went there last week. I don't think this is good. And I'll actually respond and I'll actually do that. And that is what I mean by saying, actually learn how these tools work. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, yeah, good catch. I've had that so many times. They're like, yeah, good call. I made a mistake, right? I didn't, copy it from Google properly because that's what ChatGPT is doing. It's Googling on your behalf, but it's putting it in a nice, easy to digest format, right? So use it when you would use Google, but don't use it like Google. So that's my first tip. And then the second one, it's super specific and it is super deep, but I think it is so important. These have helped me a lot, these resources. So the first one is something by a guy named Stephen Wolfram. People out there might know Wolfram Alpha if they know that. Anyways, is this computation engine. Long story short, he wrote this thing back in 2023, and it's just a great, great overview. It's a long essay, lots of diagrams, lots of very interesting things. Not obviously going to read it all right now because it'd take me probably hours, and it'd take you hours to go through it. But this is a great one. And then the second one is a video. It's a 3.5-hour video. It's crazy. I'm only, as you can see here, kind of 45 in. And this is honestly taking me a month. And I think that's okay. Both these articles are super long. They're going to challenge, this is not the way you probably digest information. You're used to quick hits on TikTok or whatever it might be. I am too. But going deep here, because this is really going to differentiate you. When I talked about earlier saying, hey, answering that question, is it going to take my job? These things are going to help you answer that, right? They're going to answer the fundamental questions so you can understand how these things work and where they're actually going. So 3.5-hour video. It's going to take you a while for sure. Long articles here, multi-hour article with lots of great text and different complicated ideas, but you're going to come out of it and you're going to just feel so much. I promise you, if you have any anxiety about AI and what it's going to do for your job, reading these types of things are really going to help. I'll go back to the sickness analogy. Talked about antibiotics earlier and going to a walk-in clinic. And it's the same idea. Like when I'm really sick, the most, I guess, anxiety inducing thing is that I don't know what's wrong with me. right? And it's the same with my house. I'll use that one too, right? It's like when I see a leak, the most anxiety-inducing thing is that I don't know why this leak is happening. And then I get in there and I learn where the leak is coming from, or I learn, what sickness I have. It's a viral, this or that. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Um, and if it's a leak and it's going to cost me $20,000, that's actually less anxiety inducing than the unknown itself. I mean, $20,000 is a lot of money. Maybe that is a little anxious, but let's call it 5,000. I don't know. But once I understand it, even if it is a big fix, even if it is a big impact, I can exhale and say, at least I can understand this. At least I can now position myself and do the necessary next steps. And I think that relates to this sort of stuff, right? So a lot of people, again, getting scared, but probably because it is that black box. So the more you can open that black box, and there's going to be more layers, I promise you, but the closer you can get to the core understanding, the more you can answer that question and say, yeah, this part of my job probably is at stake, but this part I feel really good about, right? And I think that's what these longer form, more technical stuff can do. So people have that anxiety. I recommend, it's not going to be easy, but you're going to be very thankful that you did it. So I'll pause there. 3 things there. Number 1, again, take time off, but actually take it off. That relies on process. Number 2, get back to the fundamentals, specifically get around to that thing you've been putting off and start a new habit. And then number 3, go deep, not wide, as it relates to AI. And hopefully it'll be a summer to remember. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks again, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next week.